Computer? Okay. And so what happened was we had access to a group of people who had become enthused about a concept, but they had to shift gears. And so now, obviously, we can see the direct correlation. We all know a group of people who became involved in a concept, and that concept failed to reach its mark. And there's a whole lot of people literally starved and thirsty for opportunity right now, and we can provide solutions. So we have a chance to gather together a leadership group and a fraction of what would normally be the period of time. And in fact, Jim, you now know, we were there. We were able to assemble a pre-sifted leadership group, and in the 30 years since that time, we've not had that exact same possibility, right? You've had to learn and grow each one from the bottom up. And so the ability to access a pre-sifted leadership group is of enormous value. Every single participant in this company has that possibility. I'm hoping that you're all fully harvesting the value of that. And by the way, that possibility extends the entire network marketing industry right now, in my estimation, is like a sponge that has had no liquid put on it for a long time. The whole network marketing industry, it's a sponge, there's no liquid. And so many people have lost trust, confidence, and belief. In the days since COVID, people took off the mask, new leadership hierarchies haven't been being established. Now, what we have is this magic moment where this company, Nelo, has, for whatever reason, gathered the attention, the eyes from literally all over the world. And there are a variety of reasons, but eyes from all over the world. 1 hour ago, I was on a little private Zoom session, and had one of the most influential people in the nation of Russia in network marketing on that session. Why, what is Neo Life? What's going on? One of the most influential people in the nation of India. Um, Enormously successful people all around the world. They're saying, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Now, see, I want you all to know and understand that I'm not referring to this ability to attract pre-shifted leadership. I'm not referring to that as meaning that the any company we were just involved with is our candidate pool. No, you see, what this has done is given me access to a candidate pool literally from around the world who never heard of the message that I've been involved with for the last 6 or 8 months. What it did is give me an opportunity to not just recycle, but to create a new candidate list that didn't exist. As recently as 6 weeks ago, my candidate list had 50 people on it. Today it has 50,000 people on it because it's Nelo Life. And so that's why I can't overstate it enough. So specifically, what have I been doing since the day that I said yes to this? And by the way, I couldn't say yes to this any day sooner than you all did. And we know that registrations are only now beginning to happen. But the day that I said yes to this was about 3 weeks ago. Now, I don't know what you've all done in that 3 week period, but I'll describe to you what I have been doing and what I'm doing in that period of time. First of all, while I dislike greatly the message, you can be first. Why do I dislike it? Because it becomes less true every day, right? You can be first. It's the worst message ever told in network marketing. It is also by far the most effective message ever told. People will make a decision based upon fear of loss that they will not make based upon anticipation of gain. When we're in the absolute very most startup launch phase, which is where we are right now, when we're in the startup launch phase, then and only then am I willing to shortcut some parts of what I consider to be a mandatory system. I'm going to draw that out for you for a second. Anyone who's been paying attention to the things that I teach for any period of time knows that I believe that there are a few columns here. If we just look at my whiteboard, the whiteboard has a few columns on it. And the first column on that whiteboard is what it is. So what is it? Well, now we know, if you were on that last session, it's the product, the company, it's the timing, it's compensation plan, it's training and support, right? So that's the first column. These things have to be in place. The only part of that we are responsible for is this. We are not responsible to create the product, the service, the offering. That's what the company does. We are not the owners of the company. We are not management. That is what Nick and Larry and so on, that's their responsibility, not ours. Timing, I've described to you what I perceive about the timing of the venture, but what I now know is that the timing that really matters is not the timing of the venture. The timing that really matters is your timing. And Corey, again, I happen to be looking at your picture right now. So you and I have been talking for the last period of time. And you know what? The last 8 months was invested, not spent, because you've had experiences and learned things that make you more eligible to grab a hold of this. That's the truth. You're not starting at the same place you were 8 months ago. Our relationship is not starting at the same place that it was 8 months ago. It's quite different. But everybody, if I could snap my fingers and get what's in my head to yours, if I could snap one more time and get what's in my heart to yours, then you would understand. why I was on Zooms at 3 a.m. last night and why I was on a Zoom this morning early. It is because moments like this are rare, rare, rare moments. 1 second, I've got a rare moment. So hold on just 1 second. Yes. And so to give you an idea again, the moment. So earlier yesterday, I did a Zoom with one person in India who has 400,000 people in his group. He would not have responded to my message any time before 2 days ago, because 2 days ago it became the Nelo message. This is a gentleman I've not done business with for a decade. I've known him well, but he's not opened his eyes to a single possibility until just either 2 or 3 days ago. He opened his eyes to this possibility. Then did a launch Zoom for him yesterday. And the message that he just sent over to me was that his 35 most important people would like to do a Zoom later today. You see, what is that? That is an example of gathering together pre-sifted leadership. These are people who never saw or heard of the venture that I've been involved with for the last 8 months. So once again, understand when I talk about assembling a team of pre-sifted leadership, I'm not talking about going to that particular crowd of people that some of you have been associated with for the last 8 months and trying to reshake that tree. That would not be a winning course of action, in my opinion. If people in that group of tree reach out to you, that's different. You should not be trying to pull people out of something that you were giving them hope for a very short period of time. Let that be their impetus, not your impetus. Okay. So this is the first column: products, company, timing, comp plan, training, and support. I always, of course, invite people to listen to what I say. Of greater importance, observe what I do. You can see what I'm doing right now. I'm working more hours than most human beings can. Why? Because I've learned in my life that it is at times like this when doing the massive amount of work is the only logical thing to do. The second, the second column is a column where today I am willing to make a few shortcuts. Only a few shortcuts. Why? Because anything that slows the process down today is not something that we should do. And so all of you who have listened to my teaching and guidance for a long time know that I'm very methodical in what I do. The first rung on the ladder of escalation is when I invite a candidate to hear the message utilizing a properly constructed script to let a tool talk. After that, in a typical environment, I send another tool after they have a positive response to the first. After that, I then invite them to a home business review. And so typically, before I have the first legitimate business conversation, they've reviewed one link, said they want to know more. They've reviewed the second link, said they want to know more. Now I invite them to an in-person presentation. This doesn't have to take a long time. This, in fact, should be done in 48 hours. But you know what? I don't want somebody to wait 48 hours to decide right now if they can decide right now. And so for that reason, while I would typically not invite a person to hear a basic business presentation first, if this is a basic business presentation, I would not invite a person to have a basic business presentation in a typical environment if they've not done these things yet. Only when in a pure raw startup environment where the risk of not acting today is a tangible risk. That is a tangible risk that is greater than the possibility of the message being lost because these pragmatic steps were not followed. Only in a moment exactly like this moment would I skip past those stairs. But I am personally skipping past those stairs right now. The next rung on the ladder of escalation is a proper new member orientation. It will only be a matter of weeks, not months, before I am again basically insisting that we follow this entire pattern. Right now, the truth is that because the sands through the hourglass are slipping through literally on an hourly basis. Right now, it's not just like sands through the hourglass, there go the days of our lives. Right now, if I could snap my fingers and cause you know like I do, right now, literally and truly, and no kidding, like sands through the hourglass, there go hours of our lives. And by the way, I can go back and I can attribute this almost absurd amount of money that I made in network marketing, now approaching $50 million. That absurd amount of money that I've earned in network marketing has come principally because of 4 separate moments of profound opportunity that I saw, that I recognized, and that I acted upon with a greater burst of energy than most people could imagine for a relatively short period of time. A relative short period of time of absolute crazy effort, followed by a 2 or 3 year period of maintenance, followed by multiple years of kind of hanging out. And hold on just 1 second. Okay, I've got somebody asking for this Zoom link. Just be patient with me 1 second. I apologize. Sorry about that. I am back. And by the way, this gentleman will join us in a second. This is the friend that I was just describing to you from Malaysia. And so why would I today be willing to skip these rungs on the ladder? Because this would take 3 or 4 days. That's not very long. But this gentleman is right now bringing his most important people onto this Zoom right now. And I only had my first conversation with him yesterday, day before yesterday, excuse me. And so you see, when the dynamics of the message are so powerful that it would cost someone money to force them to go through this process. I typically go through this process because this is a fail safe. It's a hedge for me to make sure that the message is not lost. If a person comes way up here for the very first look, then they may not have had some of the preliminary information that would be necessary to be able to see this with their eyes properly opened. And so it's a process. Right now, the risk is greater of them not seeing it soon enough. That's a greater risk than them not seeing it with complete clarity because they didn't participate in the entire process. And you say, what do you mean, Randy, that they didn't see it soon enough? Well, what if somebody else had called my friend Shah just one day sooner than I did? What if? You know what? That would be a great big loss for me. That would be a great big loss for me. And I would certainly not have any criticism at all had that person said, well, gosh, Randy, somebody else called me. I didn't look for you. Somebody else called me. And so I'm realizing that anybody that I know, literally anybody that I know that I want to have see this message, if I want them to see it, that means they're a person that somebody else would like them to see it also. And so I think I'm looking now, Jason Lehman, at your picture. This is a moment in time, Jason, when you don't want anybody to hear it from somebody else first, really and truly. I would rather they heard it from you, not as perfectly, and yet heard it from you, than I would that they heard it from somebody else because you were waiting to go through a process. And so I'll come back around in the very near future and say, Jason, let's not just be bringing people to look at a Zoom presentation if they've not first been to a home business review. And let's not have them come to a home business review unless they've already been through these other processes. But right now, my guidance, I'm talking to you, but I could be talking to anybody, is, and I'm looking right now at my friend UK, it is about giving enough people the chance to opt in or opt out as you possibly can right now. You are doing a favor for them. You are giving them a gift. There's nothing you could do that would be a better friend than to give them a chance to opt into this right now when they're in the earliest stages of this community build. Once again, I hate that you can be first message, but isn't it true that's a more powerful message than anything else I can tell you? Had I not contacted my friend Shaw first, somebody else would have, and the degree of possibilities that would have been lost by that are absolutely profound. And so the first column is what? It is what it is. It's the product, the company, the timing, the comp plan, the training and support. Those things are in place here. We are only responsible for this part of it, the training and support part. The ladder of escalation is what is designed and in fact required over time to not just bring people into the business who enter, but who become capable over time to develop large leadership groups. Remember that what we seek to build ultimately is this. And while people have made negative and incorrect statements about this for years, saying this pyramid shape is bad, no, it's not. Pyramid shape's absolutely wonderful. They've been standing for years in Egypt. If you build one of these, you can't knock it down. What I want to avoid is this: when we go all the way to the fifth rung first, we're building a business that looks more like this. We're building a business that is reliant upon someone else. See, Jason, if you are simply sending somebody to me to do a Zoom, or to Eric or Larry or Nick to do a Zoom, that's great, but that's not developing your skill, is it? When you and Laurie opened your home and invited people over and you did the presentation, that developed your skill. And so you see, we have to recognize that every single thing that we do in this business is either creating independence or it is creating self-reliance. If we are creating independence or dependence, if we are creating dependence, then Carol, there's not too far your business can go because there's not enough of you to go around. If, on the other hand, we engage people in a process which results in them becoming, then that's creates the greatest long-term outcome. What I'm telling you all today is that because of the power of the moment, I'm not just willing, but I am in fact skipping past rungs number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going right to rung number 5. I'm allowing first introduction to coincide with first presentation. Why? Because I'm finding that people are able to act on a presentation immediately, and they understand the power of the moment. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll come back around and we'll then add structure to that. So now going back specifically and exactly, what do I believe that each of you should do right now? I'm not sure why exactly my whiteboard doesn't just erase. That's what I wanted to do. I'll do it this way. Eraser, erase the whole thing. So let's remember that even though some people in our world will not tell us so because it's somewhat private, let's assume that people who join us need to make money. Let's not assume that they don't need to make money because of the neighborhood that they live in or the house that the car that they drive. Let's assume that people need to make money. Let's not take any shortcuts, but let's assume that they need to make money and that it would be a really good thing to get some income flowing for them right away. So the very first thing that I have done is I've simply contacted everybody that I know that is a person of goodwill and intent. And when I say I've contacted everybody I know, I've been making a lot of contacts on a daily basis. And as I've made those contacts on a daily basis, this has been my question to those people that I've contacted. My question has been this: given that we are going to create a forced matrix structure, I want you all to understand what that means. In a forced matrix, it means that the next person that gets enrolled is going to be placed by the computer where the computer dictates. It is not going to be placed by you where you dictate. That is the nature of a forced matrix, a compensation plan. And so if this is you, then the first person that you enroll is going to go right here. The second person you enroll is going to go right here. But you're not exactly sure where the third person you enroll is going to go, because you see, you've got these two legs. Someone upline of you may well do this enrollment. That enrollment may already be done when you log into your account. You don't know. And so you don't know specifically and exactly where that next person is going to go. What I have been doing is contacting the best and the brightest and the strongest people that I know, telling them what I believe to be true. And what I believe to be true is this: perhaps the single best piece of real estate that you could possibly occupy in the land right now, if you want to equate our business to real estate, is being near the top of the structure of this particular company as it rolls out. I mean, I think that this is going to be highly, highly, highly sought after real estate. Why? Because I believe there's going to be an absolute complete flood of applications. And I think that there will be completely filled out matrices sometime in the next 6 to 9 months. I mean, I absolutely believe that that's going to happen. And if there's going to be 1 million people who enroll in this company in the next year, which I think there will be, and all of those people are going to be placed downline of someone who already enrolled in the company, well, then that simple act of where you are and when you got there winds up being pretty important. You know, when I typically say like sands through the hourglass, there go the days of our lives. That's why today's state, sands through the hourglass, there go the hours of our lives. And in making each contact, I'm then posing that question. If Carol, I'm looking at Carol, if I was calling Carol, I would say, so Carol, here's the deal. What I want is to be absolutely certain that a person who enrolls down here relatively deep in the organization, they didn't get lucky to get involved the first day, the second day, the third, or the fourth. They're down here somewhere. And by the way, that could also happen in the first day. That can happen. It can go really fast. I want to make sure that they are benefiting from massive enrolling of people upline. So what is a mistake? And it's a mistake that I'm seeing people and hearing it happen all day, every day, right now. I'm hearing people say, my gosh, just take your spot. Take your spot. Don't let this go away. Just take your spot. Well, Carol, if you enroll this person, just tell them, take your spot. And then they tell somebody, take your spot. And then they tell somebody, take your spot. Well, now you've got all these generations of people who just took a spot. And what are they contributing to the community build? Nothing. What they did was, quote, take a spot with the idea of taking from the community build. I'm not going to do a darn thing, but I'm going to take a spot. That is not the correct attitude and demeanor right now. And so if I'm contacting, and so my friend Shah Khan, I think, logged on here a minute ago. I haven't looked, but my message to Shah, my question was this: can you enroll 50 people in the first week? If you can enroll 50 people in the first week, then what I want to do is position you so close to me, so tight, so high in the organization that a lot of people down here benefit from it. So Carol, think about it. What if on what I call my 2 line, where I've just got one person on the right and the left, what if each one of those people committed to me, I'm going to enroll 50 people, Randy. I'm going to enroll 50, and I'm going to do that in the first week. So what if I've got 50 committed here and I've got 50 committed here? Well, that's going to benefit everybody else, isn't it? What if on my 4 line I have 4 people and I told them, you know what, I want to bring you into this business and I want to do a lot of things with you and for you. But in order for you to be on my 4 line, you've got to tell me that you're going to enroll 50 people in the next 2 weeks. And then the next 8 people, you got to be on my 8 line. You've got to tell me you're going to enroll 50 people in the next 2 weeks and in the next 16. And so what am I suggesting to each one of you? I'm suggesting to each one of you that you do the exact same thing that I did. You contact, first of all, create a candidate list, put on that candidate list every person of goodwill and intent you know that you believe wants more and who is willing to do more to get more. Put on there the best and the brightest, the strongest, most capable people that you know, and then contact them and tell them the truth. I would love to have you be at the very top of my structure, but I need to know from you that this is going to be a big enough commitment that you're going to be committed to the idea of enrolling 50 people. And I know that some people's eyes are rolling and saying, Randy, you're talking about 50 people. Those are crazy numbers. Folks, tell people what's possible. Let's not think about what's likely. Way too much contemplation and consideration of what's likely. The average person only enrolls 2. And so that means that that's what most people are likely to do. If I allowed myself to consider what's likely, I would be a very discouraged individual. I instead refuse to consider what's likely, and I can refuse to contemplate and consider only what's possible. So what is possible? Okay, Tanner, if I could somehow snap my fingers and cause you to get it, if I could cause you to get it, this is the way home. This is the ticket. This is the key. If you believe that like I do, you'd enroll 50 people because, my gosh, it doesn't take anything to enroll 50 people if you believe it like I do. The difference in my enrolling success in most people's is my belief and conviction. And what is the primary thing, folks? My belief and conviction is in myself, in engaging people in a community that is so beneficial, uplifting, rewarding, encouraging, and good that even if they weren't gaining anything in the compensation plan and weren't traveling, they would say, it's a good thing for me just to be involved in the community. Say, we have to create a community that is so inviting that even if a person wasn't making money, they would never think of leaving it. And then we need to cause that person to earn as much money as we possibly can in the shortest possible period of time. So what is the very specific guidance that I would have to all of you? For every one of you, I would have you construct your paper tree. And your paper tree should have on it what I have been calling this 2 line. And what is that 2 line? That's just the first 2 people that you are going to enroll. And so you've got your 2 line, and these are 2 fantastic people. And so actually on this session right now, I have one of the people who is on my 2 line, and that is Jim Moyles. Jim and I have been in business together for years and years and years. He's one of the most talented and gifted people that I know in the network marketing industry. He has tremendous value to everyone in the group. And so Jim is on my 2 line, and the other individual who's on my 2 line is not on this session. And then on my 4 line, these are all people that I have known for many, many years. And these are all people who have a capacity to enroll 50 people in an hour if they want to, because of who they are and where they've been and what their level of past success and current success is in business and in life. And so now if I have aggressive enrollers here, I have aggressive enrollers here. Now I come down here to my 8 line, and on my 8 line, I have 8 more of the best and the brightest, the strongest people I know, people who have broad circle of influence, people who are trusted and connected in the community. And then here on my 16 line, I have 16 more of those. And so what I've done is hand selected 16, 24, 28, 30 of the absolute strongest people that I know. Some from inside the network marketing industry and some from outside. But I've identified the 30 best people that I know. And I've contacted those best people and I've told them, I would like for you to be engaged in my first lines, my line of 2 or 4 or 8 or 16. And now, because my line of 16 was completed today, that dialogue today will become starting at line 32. I would like you to be in the first line of 32. That's now 32 more fantastic candidates. And I will contact those fantastic candidates and I will say, you get a chance to occupy what might be the most prime real estate that exists in the United States of America right now. And in fact, around the world, that prime real estate being at the very, very top of the matrix in a program that is likely to fill out to 1 million people over the course of the next handful of 6 months. I believe that is going to happen. I believe it is going to happen with or without me, and it's going to happen with or without you. Because I believe it's going to happen with or without me, that's why I'm choosing to do it. And so once again, specific guidance, you make your paper tree. When you make your paper tree, the second you get your enrollment link, then you send that enrollment link out in this order. And so the ones that you said were going to be on your 2 line, those are the ones that you send your link to first. And you tell them, you must fill this out right now. You have to fill it out right now, because later on today, I'm sending the link out to my 4 line. And right after that, I'm sending out my link to my 8. So you should have your 2, your 4, your 8, and your 16 lines already programmed, already set in place. Now, if you're new enough to what we're doing, your business is your circle of influence in your mind right now doesn't take you through 2, 4, 8, 16. Well, then take it wherever it goes. Is it 2, 4, 8? It is the concept, not the number. In my own case, before the company goes live, I will have constructed my 2, my 4, my 8, my 16, and my 64 lines. I will be doing that to the benefit of everybody else. Because if I can have here 116, 124, 128, 130 people who are aggressive enrollers, we know that each of them are only going to have one person on each of their 2 legs. And so that means, what if each of these enrolled 50 people? Then that would mean that the entire block would be benefited by the massive enrollment of all those folks. And so what I'm doing by granting these people that immediate top positioning is I'm promising, virtually guaranteeing to those who may not have the same backgrounds as these, that those matrices will be filled out by the ultra aggressive enrolling of the people up here. And Jim, you might be the only one in the session who would understand exactly what I'm saying, but this is what's happening right now as we speak, is the recreation of the most striking initial leadership group that I've seen since what you and I did back in 1991, because of an ability to gather together a group of pre-sifted people, and that pre-sifted people becoming available to operate a program which has more substance, more possibility for a tremendous outcome than anything you and I have seen since that day back in 91. Okay, so I've rambled a lot. I've said quite a bit in a short period of time. I said I wanted this to be a conversation. And so I'm going to pause here for a moment and ask if there are questions or areas of lack of understanding or something specifically, a direction that any of you would like me to go. Otherwise, I'll continue on. But I want to pause and just see if there's any question, thought, or comment. I'm happy to take it right now. Okay, I will forge on. So remember that the person who joins, after we get past this immediate moment, in the immediate moment, the opportunity itself is a really, really, really bright light. And it's a really bright light for some reasons that I like and for some reasons that I don't. It's a really bright light specifically and exactly because of the power of that you can be first message, right? We understand that. And so I want to harvest the value of that. I don't want to understate it, and I want to harvest the value of it. I want to also acknowledge that almost immediately will take a very, very short period of time beyond the very most initial rollout launch, where if we're not adding substance, that the simple message of you can be first will become a hollow message. That will happen in a matter of maybe 8 or 10 or 12 weeks. It won't be any longer than that. In fact, the reason that so many people have been drawn to me over the course of the last 8 months is because of the substance that's been provided in the trainings, as opposed to a simple "you can be first" message. And so my great ambition will be this. I learned a precious lesson from a gentleman named Orrin Woodward a few years ago, and I wanted to recount that experience. Orrin was a Crown Ambassador to a company called Amway, and he was a Crown Ambassador to a company called Amway at the same time that I'd been asked to become the president of a company called Monavie. And Orrin had decided that he and Amway were going to part ways, and he had a non-compete agreement. He had to go 36 months without being involved in any other company. And so he came to me as the president of Monavie, and he said, "Randy, I'm going to bring you 100,000 people. But he said, you need to understand those 100,000 people are my people. This is my organization. You're simply my vendor. You need to understand I've worked for a decade to create this leadership group. This is my group. You are my vendor." And I said, "Okay, Orrin, whatever." And I didn't believe he had much chance of doing what he thought he was going to do, because he told me he was going to hold this group of people together for 3 years till the non-compete expired. And then he'd bring those people in mass, and there would be this new organization. And based upon my then current knowledge and understanding, I thought there's a 0% chance of that happening. But you know what? Orrin held those people together. He did. And in fact, I see my friend Carol Morris. She was a part of that organization all those years ago. And you know what? He held that group together. He just called it the team. And those people on the team, they would come to our Monavie function. We'd have a Monavie convention on a Saturday and Sunday, and there'd be 7,000 people in it. Orrin would have his convention the Thursday and Friday before that, and there'd be 15,000 people in the Orrin convention. And then he'd just bring his leadership group to our big one. What we called the big one would have as many people as his leadership group. And he taught me the critical value of creating a structure that is so overwhelmingly positive that people would stay involved if there wasn't a product, because there wasn't one. And they actually paid $50 a month for 3 years just to stay involved in that leadership group, to have access to the leadership content that was being delivered week after week by Oren and his leadership council. That, by the way, is why I don't look askance at when it says the Neo live streaming. There is value there. I mean, I watched Oren hold it together for 3 entire years with people not able to earn a commission check. There was no product to sell. Now, what we must do is similar. And when we create, and by the way, I'm an advocate for the entire network marketing industry, and I'm an advocate for every single participant, no matter what organization they fall into in this company, no matter where they are. Now, do I also have a special interest in the success of my own organization? Of course I do. And what Oren taught me is what I want to teach you. Oren said, Randy, you'll never have to wonder who's in my group. I said, how? He said, Randy, you'll know because of the way they dress. You'll always know who's in my group. You're not going to have to ask. He said, you'll never have to ask who's in my group, Randy, because they'll be the people who are on every meeting on time. You won't wonder. He said, you won't have to ask who my group is because they'll be the ones that are in their chairs. They won't be standing out in the back lobby chatting when the keynote speaker is on. He said, you'll know that they're in my group, Randy, because they won't be the ones who are getting compliance problems all the time. He said, you're never going to have to ask who's in my group. You'll know. And I thought that was really, really good when he taught me that. And from that moment forward, I wanted it to be evident to the world who's in my group. Not that I wouldn't want everyone else to espouse the same high standards, but I want it to be completely evident to anybody. Oh yeah, I know who those guys are. They're the ones who show up on time. They're respectful of every speaker on stage. They are not just taking from the network. They're the biggest contributors to the network because of that rapid flow of new member or applications. They are not simply building a V-shaped business that is dependent upon a leader or two. They're creating a leadership structure and hierarchy that is causing others to learn, grow, develop, and become. I want it to be so very, very obvious. And so the most immediate thing is to act upon this moment. If there's a single one of you on this session right now who has not told whoever invited you to it that you want to be in, my strongest advice is that you don't waste any more time. And I promise you this, and by the way, I have also been, I consciously made a decision of what I wanted my 2-line, my 4-line, my 16, and my 32-line to look like. That was a choice that I made. And it was an intentional choice because I believe that is what will create the greatest benefit to every other person in the business. You need to make that same choice. What do you want your business to look like at the outset? Do not let it be that you let your first, your second, your third, your fourth lines, your 2-line, your 4-line, your 8-line, your 16-line. Do not let it be that those are populated principally with people who just want a spot. Do not let it be that those are people who are asking you the question of how little do I have to do to get the most. Let that be populated with people who are willing to do the most to get the most, the benefit of other people. And so you can construct that the very same way that I have constructed that. Then immediately, as soon as the first group cruise is announced, you get yourself booked for it. Write this down here and I'll make a little prediction. The leadership hierarchies that are formed on that very first group travel experience will still be standing 10 years from now. That is what will happen. Now, because that will be almost entirely, not solely, but almost entirely US-based participants, what will happen is the development of a partial leadership structure. 6 months from now, by the time we've had that similar event in Europe and in Asia and in Latin America, where there was group travel for each of those participants, the leadership structures will then be in place that will still be standing 10 years from now on a global scale. That is the truth. I mean, Jim, you think back to our various experiences. Either you were there, weren't you? From August 1991 until about February 1992, either you were there or you were not. And can you think of a single person who broke through to the top of that hierarchy who was not there in those first 6 months? Jim?
I can, but they were exceptional. They were the exception.
Okay. And it was
You're right. The team we put together just took over the company and we blew it out of the park.
That's exactly right. And by the way, Jim is right. It can happen later in the game, but mostly will happen later in the game with those people who have deep, deep, deep circles of influence in various places in the world. And so a great sense of urgency. And if there was some way that I could make this next thing happen for you all, I wish this was within my power. It's not, but I got to go back to one more quick whiteboard. Any of you who right now are allowing yourself to carry around useless baggage, that is at a very high cost. And what is the useless baggage that you might be carrying around? Whiteboard's trying to load here. The useless baggage that you might be carrying around.
All these people are spending time on.
Hold on here. Have to do something about that. 1 second. There we go. Yeah. Okay, that's not going to let me. I'll do it here on motherboard instead. Okay, the useless baggage that you might just be carrying around is, this is me, and I have got in my hand a big old heavy suitcase, and down here is a pot of gold. I can't pick up the pot of gold, can I? Because I'm carrying the big old heavy suitcase. If I could somehow cause you all to clean the whiteboard so you could drop the baggage of, I've tried before in MLM and it didn't work, and therefore I don't trust this enough to really invest myself in it. If you could drop the baggage of, oh my God, I got involved in a company called Transact Card and they never got the card out. That then morphed into a mess called Finmore, and I embarrassed myself with some of my candidates and my closest friends. Folks, you got to figure out a way to drop that baggage. That is very expensive baggage. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure that I can do this. Somebody who, by the way, has no clue, but somebody said something negative about a forced matrix compensation plan. You know what? You better be willing to drop that. And I would ask you this question. If anybody says something negative about a forced matrix compensation plan, then I want you to ask them this question. How much money have you earned for the last 10 years in a row in network marketing? If that answer is not something more than $500,000, then it doesn't need the next thing. If that answer is more than $500,000, then tell them, let's get on the phone with Randy. And let me explain to them specifically and exactly the learning curve that I went through to find out the how and why. But I had to go through a learning curve so that I could drop that baggage, because I believe that if we pay people who do something or pay people who do nothing, we won't have enough money left to pay them something. But Jim, that's what I thought, the capitalist mindset that I've had all my life. Turns out that Alan Pariser and company over at Melaleuca were right and that I was wrong. Paying people a little bit who do nothing so that they don't quit turns out to be a fantastic idea. But I had to be willing to drop that baggage in order to pick something up that was more useful to me. Whatever is the baggage that you're carrying around, you got to find a way to cauterize the wound and drop the baggage and drop it right now. Because every day that this thing inches a little bit further away from the point of Genesis is a day you'll look back and say, oh my gosh, that was a costly day. I don't look back at the amount of the burst of energy that we put into that company all those years ago, Jim, and say, wow, I wish I'd taken a more measured approach to that. You know, I can look at every success in my life and I don't look back at it and say, wow, I wish I'd been a little bit slower out of the gate with that. My great successes have all been because of being very fast out of the gate and only choosing to pause and take a rest when the moment had been fully captured. So folks, that basically is the information I wanted to cover with you today. Construct your paper tree. When you construct the paper tree, then I would encourage you to have every person who is in that paper tree, your 2, your 4, your 8, your 16 line down to 32, if that's where you're going. Every person that is on that should know in advance that they're going to be receiving the link. They should know when you receive it. You've got about 10 hours to turn this thing around to me right now. This is a program that's built for speed. And if you allow your enrollment process to slow it down, that's very costly. And by the way, I see, Josh, you've got your hand up. So if you've got a question, just unmute yourself and ask. I don't want any question to go unanswered here on this session. Anyone perfectly happy to help. Oops, you're muted, Josh. I'm going to ask you to unmute. I may have lost Josh now. If any of you have a question, just fire away. Okay, there is no question that's not appropriate. Everything is A-okay with me. A couple of other quick things. The questions have not been asked on this session. Nick, oh, there you go. Josh, go ahead. Oh, you're still muted, Josh. Can you unmute somehow?
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
I didn't have my hand up. That might be my mug behind me.
Oh, I see. That's exactly what it is. Okay. All right, good.
But thank you very much.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, so you all know, if you have a question, I want to answer it. Great mug. All right, cool.
That's hilarious.
I also I also really want, and now I'm looking at my friend Marcia, and Marcia's hand is up, and so I'll take that question. Marcia, and I say this with kindness and love in my heart. Marcia, you are an example of one that needs to drop the baggage, right? If when I'm talking to people, I'm hearing questions about what was, about problems in the past, drop the stinking baggage so that we can pick up useful baggage and move on. And I said that with a smile on my face and love in my heart. Turn on your video, Marcia, and ask your question.
All right. So, Randy, thank you for that because you've always been honest. And hey, I was just jumping up and down because that baggage is already rolling off of me. So I'm not hanging on to any of that baggage. Okay. All I'm thinking about is how many people can we get for this period? It's forward thinking period. Here's my question. So we got the link, we filled it out, it's done finally. So for us to now get links for other people, what's the process?
Okay, so obviously Marcia just said that she got her link, and so that tells you what. I told her that I've done my first 16, and so Marcia has that very precious piece of real estate in being in that 16 line. Marcia, you got that link last night, the line of 32, which some of you on this session are in that line of 32. That line of 32 links I'm anticipating tomorrow. Okay. Now for all, and by the way, that's I am going to personally construct my 8, 6, and my 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. That will all be constructed before the company goes live. And whether that's done because the company's done the first handful manually, or whether it's done exactly the way that I'm describing to you, where it's already just been established. And by the way, Mike, for example, looking at Mike Zano, in my own paper construct, people were put into the construct. The day that you contacted me and said, Randy, I'd like you to be my sponsor, that was the day you went into the paper construct, and your position in the tree is already there. You'll get your enrollment link, I'm hoping, tomorrow. Okay, so that was an example for one. For everybody, for the broader application of everybody now being able to enroll, if you were on, oh, I'm sorry, Nick was on the last Zoom with me before the business presentation. The company is still staying with the company line. If you click on the website, you see the countdown. The countdown says what? The end of this coming month. So officially, formally, that is the line. We all know that we've got a little bit of PTSD that we're carrying around from so many timelines and promises that have not been hit in recent experiences. And so the company's being more than cautious with that. I won't be quite as cautious as the company. I believe that there's nothing more important that we can do than to get the income wheel turning for those people who need it to turn, because there are weekly commission components in this company. I want people to get commission checks on the 15th of April, which would imply that they have to be able to enroll in the week of the 8th of April. This is me you're hearing from now, not the company, but I think those enrollments will become available on a widespread basis. I'm hoping on the 8th. I'm hoping on the 8th, and I won't be overly disappointed if it stretches out to the 15th, but I'll be a little bit surprised if it stretches out to the 15th. And Shah and also, Carol, I'm going to answer your questions, but first I'm going to answer Mike's because he was the next one who put his hand up. So Mike, fire away. And you'll need to unmute yourself there. Thank you.
No worries, no worries. So I appreciate it. Superb training, absolutely. So one of my confusions is I'm not very versed in the realm of traditional MLM or network marketing. I am a multiple brick and mortar business owner. When you're talking about having your 2 line, your 4 line, your 8 line, your 16 line, your 32 all the way down to your 64 line already filled out, are those personals, those 128 people, or those personal people that you are recruiting?
For me, yes. But remember that I'm not anticipating that anybody who has not lived my life would have 128 people that they could enroll tomorrow, right? And so don't say, oh my gosh, this is not going to work for me. Remember, this is what I've done for the last 33 years. And so
no, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I guess my clarification that I'm looking for, those are personal people that you are putting in your
Correct.
downline and filling in your matrix.
Correct. And let me tell you, Mike, also, again, I don't know how big your goals are. I want to tell you all how big the number can be. It is my absolute plan to enroll as many people as I have to have 20 of them have a completely filled out matrix. And so if I have 20 people with a built out matrix, that means 20 people who are making $100,000 a month. That might sound crazy to you, but you know what? I've done
31,070. Yeah.
I've had a business with 10 people in it making over $1 million per year, 10 separate legs. In this case, if that were to occur, enroll 10 people who make $1 million a year, guess what? Your matching bonus is $1 million per year. as a result of having done that. And so there's no limitation to what can be accomplished here. It's massive. And that is reserved specifically to those who are aggressive enrollers. If you only enroll a couple of people, then you'll only have a couple of enrollment tree legs on which you can earn matching bonuses. And so that's why that matrix is the middle ground for those who are not aggressive enrollers, those who don't create a lot of matching bonuses. Then the matrix becomes their primary income driver. For true leadership that takes it to the top of the top, the matching bonus is the principal income driver. And I'm going to call upon Shah next, only because it's the middle of the night where he is, and I don't know how long he's going to be with us. This is Shah Khan. I mentioned I was the president of a company called Monavi for a while. There was only one guy in Latin America that reached the rank called presidential, and that was Shah. He's one of the best of the best of the best. So Shah, fire away. What's your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's about 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and when you talk about baggage, I had the misfortune that when I joined you in a company in Agile in 2006, and not the fault of yours, but the company shut down. But then, after that, what I learned from you, I'm not apple polishing you. I'm just being real. What I learned from you in Agile was when, at that time, there was no Zoom calls like this. We used to talk on the phone. And what I learned was I applied that in Monavi. And then I'm emphasizing on baggage, you know. And then when I met you as a president of Monavi, I already started to do quite well. But I picked you up in a very nice city called Penang, one of the most beautiful cities. I picked you at the airport. And then when I put you in the car with a friend of mine, and by the time we got to I didn't want to speak something negative to you in front of him. And I asked, when we were alone, I asked you a question, Randy, when Agile shut down, and I was messaging you and calling you, and you didn't have any answer for me. And then you replied instantly. I couldn't answer you because I was not in control of the company, and the company shut down. I didn't have an answer for you. Okay, fine. Then I told you something that I said, if that's the way it's going, then after some time, people won't follow you. And that's when you look at me straight in the eye and you pointed at me and said, that's where you're wrong. You told me on the face, you are wrong there. I said, why? He said that, you told me that as long as you have the desire, as long as you have that burning, that energy, and most importantly, you mentioned about presentation skills. And I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about that from you too, okay? So, and you told me as long as you have that, you can be thrown anywhere in the world, in Alaska for the matter, and you can do very well. You're talking about presentation skills. And I was, immediately after Agile, I was polishing my presentation skills. And then, and we spoke about baggage. So what happened was I had that baggage of Agile with me because it didn't work, and not fault of yours. Sometimes, sometimes when things go wrong, I look at it three things. Number one, was it your fault? Was it somebody's fault, or was it circumstances? Now, circumstances have showed us lately that, a lot of, the COVID came and a lot of companies shut down. Sometimes it's circumstances, sometimes because of somebody. So I said, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't Randy's fault. It was circumstances for the company, and we were depending on the company. Then, and then I told you, look, Randy, now the social media is coming about. It's 206 and 207 in Monavi, when I met you again as a president, or 208, sorry. And then you told me, sure, that's where you're wrong, because, I said people will start bad-mouthing you in the Facebook and whatnot. At the time, Facebook was not on social media. And you told me that even if people bad-mouth you or whatever, there isn't, people don't have time to read this because the genuine guys won't want to carry that baggage. And I learned that baggage thing, which you're speaking today. I learned that from you in 2008. And then you were president. And what I learned from you of throwing off that baggage was, I went to break 3 world records after that. I was the first presidential black diamond in the entire world outside USA because of removing that baggage. If I wanted to look at that, I learned that, whatever you focus on will expand. So I knew that baggage was there. And I said, how do I go back to the same people? And you told me on the face, you said, Shah, you don't need the same people. As long as you have your talents, and you say something, build your skills and talents, your day will come. And as long as you polish your presentation skills. And that's when I was doing weekly meetings every day. Those times there was no Zoom meetings. I was doing meetings of 500-600 people every week. Almost every second day, 5-6. Those are live meetings. And it really embedded in my mind that you're talking about presentation skills and independency. So I really work at that very hard, Randy. I really work at that very hard. And from then onwards, and you left Monavi for something better, and I took off. I just took off. I broke the world records and whatnot. And then unfortunately, Monavi goes. So my question to you, since it's a question time, when are you doing your next meeting? Because I know you're doing Zoom meetings every single hour. We're getting the information a bit, especially me in this corner of the world. It's 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and I'm getting the Zoom meetings a bit late. So the invitation, so I got everything ready to go. And I think both of us got the same bad habit of breaking world records.
We'll continue that habit, Sean. I appreciate you being here. So, folks,
Thank you.
as I listen to Shop, once again, this for me has been a life experience. I was raised in a little tiny town in Idaho. What do you suppose the chances are that I would become friends with and travel throughout Southeast Asia with Shakam? There are so many ways that we get paid. Acknowledge, admittedly, the first way we need to get paid is to pay our bills, but there's so much more to this if one really understands it. Our time's getting close to up. Carol Lowenstein, I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm not trying to. Please go ahead.
Oh, this was absolutely extraordinary. Thank you so much. I would love to see what your form with your link looks like, what sort of information that you gather besides your conversation. That would be.
It's the easiest thing imaginable. Like it'll surprise you how easy. Not a form. All I do is I text to myself, name, telephone number, country, and email address. That's it, because that's the only information that I have. They're going to fill everything out. That's all that I'm gathering. So I'm just gathering that stuff up, and again, creating the paper tree. And what I want you to do is be prepared. I don't want anyone to leave this session and be discouraged because, oh my gosh, Shah Khan could call 100 people tomorrow, or Randy can. No, it's me compared to me. It's you compared to you. And it's about if your immediately available circle of influence is 3 people, fantastic. That's the best job we possibly can with those 3 people. And if that's the case, then let it be that this is the situation that you engage yourself in, such that you develop the relationship skills so that never again in your life is your circle of influence limited to 3 people. There's a lot of ways to measure wealth. I will tell you that my wealth, without question, is measured in the depth, the quality, and the sheer magnitude of relationships that I have everywhere in the world. Anyway, long, boring answer, short question. Easiest thing imaginable. And now
Thank you so much.
You are quite welcome. And anybody else I'm seeing over here, there's another, it just says Zoom user, ma'am. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Somebody that says Zoom user, their hand up. Yeah, go ahead. You need to unmute yourself though.
My quick question is, do we know currently what countries will be available at the immediate launch?
Yeah, anything that the United States doesn't have a trade embargo with. Venezuela would be a spot to go, North Korea, Iran. Today, there's a question. I'm not certain about Russia immediately just because of the current situation. Russia may or may not be immediately available. It'll be available soon, if not immediately. And
okay, thank you.
Our time is basically spent. Pat Bigelow, I'm going to call upon you to unmute yourself, and then we'll wrap it up unless there's something else pressing.
Yep. My very quick question is that I've seen your trainings, understanding the 10-step process, just understanding what you said about the being drawn into a leadership position and where that can go. And I'm sure you can give that in future updates, but just wondering how that will work.
Well, again, I talk about putting meat on the bones. Right now, it would simply not be a good use of my time to go to a recording studio, and it only takes 3 days, but it's 3 days. And right now it'd be a very, very expensive 3 days for me to go to a recording studio and create the tool suite. It's also true that at this second in time, those tools are unneeded. They'll be needed 6 weeks from now. I promise you that 6 weeks from now they'll be available, but I will choose not to spend the time. Now it's only an investment of time moment. And so, Pat, you're exactly right. It's not my process, the process that I was taught years ago. That process will be integrated. Jim Moyles will be involved with me in the creation of hard copy training materials as well as the video materials. And I want to assure you all again that the purpose of that will be for us all to become more successful. I'm not in the tool sales business, have not been, nor will I be. And last one, Carol, I'll call upon you. That's Stephen here. A couple more here, So Carol, go ahead.
Hi, thanks so much, Randy. I am a people person, and it's easy for me to talk to strangers, but I'm very curious what you say to somebody. You may not be talking to strangers, your network is so big. But,
Okay.
could you give us a few leading lines that work to get their attention?
Yeah,
Given that we've been selling this other product, which I want to stay loyal to, I think the two together are fabulous. So I don't want to miss that. And so anyway, what do you say?
So it wouldn't work for me to say that right now. That would be a complete waste of your time and mine. You need to instead watch a video that is called Mastering the Art of the Invitation. You need to watch it once per week and listen to the audio 6 times per week for the next 90 days. And then you'll know what to say and what not to say. I mean, I couldn't possibly, mastering the art of the invitation, the first thing is learning how to listen. This then becomes an hour-long conversation. If I'm in a conversation with Kay and I am listening 65% of the time instead of talking, then I get to hear what's important to Kay and I get to respond to her need. The vast majority of people lose in a network marketing invitation at the very beginning because they come rushing to Kay telling her what's important to them. Oh my gosh, Kay, I found this and I'm so excited about it. No, what I instead do is I listen to Kay and I find out that Kay has a new grandchild. And so when Kay tells me she has a new grandchild, what I heard her say was, I'd do anything to pay for that child's private education a few years from now. That's what I heard her say, because every grandmother with a new grandchild would say that. And so I could make the mistake and I could leap through the screen. And I could say, oh my gosh, Kay, I've got something for you. Or instead I could do it right. I could make myself a note. I could wait 2 or 3 weeks and then I could call her back. Or more importantly, I could drive 20 minutes out of my way and I could go see her and say, Kay, I've not been able to get your face and the way you looked out of my mind when you said you had a new grandchild. And I could see how important it would be for you to provide the education for that child. If you'd like, I can show you a 7-minute video clip that illustrates how I did it for mine. Okay, now that was one illustration of what is, again, I cannot begin to do justice to how do you invite. And that's a 2-hour-long conversation to teach it right and to give you a training process. But the fact is that the vast majority of people who get involved in this industry eliminate their ultimate chances for success because they never learn what to say and what not to say. So their candidate opens their eyes, their ears, and their hearts to possibility. And so the decision is made not based on whatever the offering is. They don't know what the offering is. The decision is based upon the ineffective introduction. So therefore, that is why I've long described the skill of mastering the art of the invitation as being one of the 4 pivotal skills to success.
Where do we get that recording?
We'll need to record it again for this company because obviously we're brand new and I'm not in the recording studio. I've already told you that.
Oh, that's what you were talking
I
about.
dropped it in the chat, Randy.
But you can go to my YouTube page and you can find an outdated version that would nevertheless be more than effective right now.
Okay.
Stephen Edwards, how can I help?
Thank you.
I have to ask you to unmute, Stephen.
By the way, Randy, I dropped your link in the chat for Mastering the Art.
Okay, cool. Stephen, I can't hear you still. Still muted. So since Stephen's trying to figure out if he can unmute or not, I'm going to call on you, Kay Taylor. You have to unmute yourself. Okay.
Okay, real quick on the matrix. You're talking about the tree with the 2, 4, 6 down. It's as far as you can, as wide as you can go. The company lets you go is 2, or you just start out with 2 and then you go wide later.
It's 2. It is a force matrix. Okay. It is 2 by 16, 2 by 2, 2 by 2 by 2. So I want you to enroll 100 people, but those 100 people are going to be like if you enroll 10 people, then 10-person enrollments are all first level to you in the matching bonus. They fall into the matrix wherever they fall. Okay, in the matching, every person enrollment is first level to you. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Stephen?
I just wanted to tell you, Randy, I was introduced to the network marketing business model when I was 19 years old, 30 years ago. I've been in numerous ventures over the years, had success in some and failed in others, but I've never had the access to a mentor of your caliber, and I consider you a blessing, and it's a privilege to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Rick Walsh.
Hey, Randy. Got a question here. I got my my tree all done, but when it comes time and these links come out, obviously hours make a difference, and sometimes minutes make a difference. And if you got a tree of 50 people and you're trying to contact them, in order, etc. And you got to wait till the 2 do something before the 4, before the 8, before the 16. You could be through the 16 and into the 32s, 2 weeks down the road, depending on how quickly people get back to you. Are there any thoughts given to the idea that the leader actually takes the information, the name, the social security number, the credit card number, etc., and when the links are released, they fill that information out if they have a written email that says, you have my permission to fill out this information on the form, and then you could fill out the 2, the 4, the 8, the 16 immediately.
Is there any thought given to that so far? If there is, Rick, I'm unaware of it. I don't know. That may be something that's a possibility, but that's not been a conversation. I understand what you're saying, but it's not a large number of people. Your 2 line, those guys just need to be told, you know what, you're going to get the link. And when you get the link, you got to act on it right now. I mean, I don't mind the urgency. That's actually not a bad thing. You got to act on it right now, because I have to do the enrollments below you in the next hour. I can certainly pose the question, but that's all it is. Is that possible? I don't know, but I'll find out.
Okay.
Okay, very good. And anyone else? I don't see any other hands that are up. I don't want a single question to go unanswered if I can answer it. And by the way, let me just all describe to you the way that I work generally. Anyone, I'm sure there are multiple people on here who are not in my organization. It's fantastic. You're welcome here. Anything that
Randy, can I ask you a question?
let me just finish this statement, then you can. Anything that does not require a unique investment of my time, everyone is welcome. Right? Anything that I do, if I'm doing a presentation and there are 1,000 people on it, it does the exact same hour of mine as if there's 2 people on it. So anything that does not require a unique use of my time is available to everyone. It is only when there's a unique, it's like Kay Taylor, if she were to ask me to come to her home to do a business presentation. Well, yes, I could do that because Kay's in my group. Were Kay not in my group, then I would teach her how to do it in these overall settings, but the unique investment of my time would not be as available. And that, by the way, is the way that we all should work. Everything that we do that is institutionalized should be available to all freely. If you're being asked to invest unique time yourself, that should be invested in your own specific organization. Jim, go ahead.
Just a couple of thoughts here. Touching on the inviting, inviting is one of the keys to success in this. And one of them is, as you mentioned, Randy, to be a great listener. Secondly, just door opening questions. What do you like most about what you do? When nothing's perfect, what's missing? Or if you're talking, you've had a business meeting, are you opening another profit center if it makes sense? And learn how to be a good listener, and then just don't barge in with a solution. Make sure you take the time, take a breath for them to elaborate. This is pretty easy, everyone, because if you really think about this, it's a $40 decision. And during the first year, it's really $20. Well, actually, it's $40 because of that $40, we contribute $20 to our favorite charity. As far as the link, though, since this is a very simple application, why don't we simply include the credit card number to slow down the enrollment process, because everything else can be filled in later. And then my last suggestion here is this is a simple decision, everybody. Don't oversell it. This is a $40 decision. Anybody with any common sense, if they can elaborate the reward versus risk, is going to see this is a very easy yes. Anyway, we'll elaborate on this, and it's I couldn't agree more with that gentleman, that astute man that jumped on this call a few seconds ago and mentioned how fortunate we are to have your leadership, Randy. And I second and third and fourth that.
You're great. Thank you, Jim. And guys, Jim has been a master distributor at companies. He and I have built absolutely enormous organizations together. Jim will be adding the hard copy content that so many people need to have, the audio video content that I'll provide. And of course, as we go forward, what we seek to do is create a leadership hierarchy. And I want you to know that there is room in it at the absolute very top of it for you, whomever you are. What I'm doing right now is the same thing I'd encourage all of you to do. I'm leveraging existing relationships to the benefit as many as I can. You should do the same. But I also want you to know that there is a seat at the table for you. It's the absolute truth. There's a seat at the table for you if you'd like to have that seat. Okay, folks, it is now 12:10. You probably listen to me far more than any of you want to. One more, Tom and Holly Buck, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and you'll be our final comment. Thomas, I'm going to have you unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. I'll be very brief. I just want everybody on here to understand the gold that you have sitting in front of you. I've dealt in different businesses with different leaders. The last leader that I dealt with, multiple diamond, multiple, all kinds of money. Having said that, would not call me with a phone number that was not blocked. I had no access to ask questions. You have a man sitting in front of you answering questions, taking his time from his family. So I just want you to understand the value that we have in moving forward with this opportunity. And I would encourage each and every one of you to plug in, set aside all of your preconceived notions, listen to his teaching, and do what he says. Follow his taillights, because you will not be disappointed. His integrity is what drew me to him. I was not in any of his businesses. I'd never heard the name Randy Schroeder until the last venture I was in. Doesn't matter what it was, but I saw his integrity and I listened to him. And when he was willing to sit and teach till 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night in a town far, far away west of me, and the other leader's like, I'm out of here. I'm tired. I'm out of here. And he's like, well, I was ready to go for another 2 hours. That told me that he cares about people. He cares about your success. I've said enough. Just understand, folks, you have gold in front of you. His heart is huge, but shut your mouth and use your ears. Listen and do what he says. Amen.
That was very kind. Thank you, Thomas. So everybody, it is Saturday of Easter weekend. For those of you who are Christian, I wish to you the very most wonderful Easter. For those of you who have other spiritual backgrounds, Shaw and other friends, I wish you the very most wonderful weekend as well. And one of my life's experiences has been that Shaw gave me the gift of introducing me to people around Malaysia and Indonesia, and I got to find out that people are all the same every place. We all want the same. We want to love somebody. We want to be loved by somebody. We want to have success in life. We want to not have drama and trauma. We're all so much more alike than we are different. Anyway, everybody have a wonderful weekend. It's my joy and pleasure being here. There is no limit to what I will do to help this organization, to help you as an individual succeed. God bless everybody. On we go. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Randy. Happy weekend, everybody.